Welcome to the UDL podcast. My name is Esquire, and today I'm joined by Galactic and Nickinator. Say hi, boys.
Yo, what's up, guys? Hello.
And today is a very special episode of the podcast. We're going to be talking about the power rankings that have come out. So a lot of people, myself, Nickinator, Zaku, Esquire, I said myself, Brick, Gal, have all done PRs, as has ChatGPT. I put out everybody in ChatGPT and had it rank it based on their Pokemon. And so with all those averaged together, we will go from the bottom up, and we will talk about everybody's teams. So, without further ado, in 16th place we have River with 105 points total, which averages out to about go ahead and talk about it. I got my average thing wrong.
Yeah, so with River's team, there's definitely some good things to look at, but there's also some things that I think he's particularly going to struggle with. One of the main things that I noticed immediately about his team was the Firewater Grass Core basically being non-existent.
Yeah.
He does not have a fire or a water type, and his grass type being Calyrex is not the best option.
Right.
I mean, to the point where you can probably even consider it to not exist either. So I struggled with that aspect of it. I also was not able to award many points for hazard or hazard removal either, due to him not having any spike or toxic spike users, and only one rock user being Lycanroc Dusk, which can be brought in a situational aspect. But ideally, you're going to be wanting to run Lycanroc Dusk as a more physically offensive mon. So wasting a move slot with Stealth Rocks a lot is going to hurt him, as well as having no Rapid Spin users and only one Defog user being Mega Altaria. He does have a Sticky Web user in Kricketune, but once again, looking at his team, I feel like that's going to be situational. However, I also feel like he needs to use it because of his speed tiers, like in Rock Dust being the fastest thing that he has. And I mean, he does have Pokemon that can use Trick Room, but once again, that's only Calyrex. So the hazards for me was another major issue. However, something I did like was his Fairy Dragon Steel Core. I really like his Fairy Dragon Steel Core. I did not use the Mega Altaria in that, which does add another Dragon and Fairy. I used the Zygarde Grimmsnarl Aegislash because I think it's a little bit better. But I will say that, with screens, which he does have readily available to him with Grimmsnarl, that will put teams in a situation where they're going to have to figure out how to deal with stuff like Zygarde and Urshifu single strike behind screens. So Brick Break is going to have to be brought versus him for sure.
Nick, you got anything you want to add? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. But the big thing that I noticed when looking at this team is a lot of his main threats are all going to be attacking physically from the same side. Some of them can go specially, like Altaria has, I think, the same physical and special attack, but you're going to be running, if it's an offensive Altaria, it's going to be a Dragon Dance, physical, EQ, all that jazz. Zygarde can run special, but normally it's going to be physical attacker. You can run it specially, but again, you would rather run it physically, but when you have Lycanroc Dusk, Urshifu, Zygarde, Altaria, Absol as your main Terramon, which is your third Dark type. I know it's a Terramon, but 3 Dark types and then making one of them your Terramon, I would have liked to see maybe a Beartic Terramon.
I agree with that. I wanted to see Beartic as well.
And you get a lot of mons who pair with other mons can be really good. If you get a Hailed Mon or a Rain Mon for Beartic, that as a Terramon would have been fantastic with Slush Rush or Swift Swim, but you don't have a Rain or a Snow Center. You could set it up automatically with Beartic, but that's not optimal. And it could be a good Terra user even on its own just to get rid of the Ice type, but you went with Absol, which to me confuses me because you already have two Dark types. You already have Urshifu Single Strike, which is one of the best Dark types in the game. So why get the thing like Absol as your main Terramon? Grapplock as the other Terramon, I think it's a fine choice. Again, I would have liked to see Beartick, but Grapplock isn't that bad of an option either. But again, almost everything on this team is a physical attacker. The only mon that is a main special attacker is Calyrex, and that's about it. Like, I
Technically,
don't...
Calyrex's physical offense is just as good as its special. It's 8. They have 100 HP, but other than that, has 80s across the board.
Then that makes my point even better because this entire team is just gonna run into Rocky helmets, and you're gonna be forced to run Protective Pad. You'll be forced to run Punching Glove to avoid these Rocky helmets. But you don't want to be doing that.
Yeah. Besides Mega Altaria, his best special attacker, at least base stat wise, is Grimmsnarl with 95.
All right. So now we will move on to our 15th ranked team. With 103 points is Zaku. And we will discuss Zaku here for a minute. Everybody kind of knows he drafted low tier, so a lot of people gave him flack for that. But do you guys have any thoughts?
Let you go first this time, Nick.
Alright, I will be glad to go because I don't think this team is all that bad to begin with. I think the main issue is just it's their lower tiers. The power creep is just going to be really difficult for Zaku to overcome. But if this was like a team of like mid tiers only, this team would actually be. I actually kind of like the team. It's just
It would be busted.
It'd be busted in the mid tier league, absolutely. But in this league with Natdex and Terramons, it's not the greatest. But I really like the combinations. He gets Webs Masquerain. You have a good spinner with Hitmontop. You get your Cleric with the Remotis, which I was looking at if I didn't get my little doggy. But there's a lot of the options that he has for him I really like. I could have liked to see Ursaring as a Terramon over Masquerain. I believe it was 15 points. Yeah, so you could have had Guzzlord and Ursaring as your two Terramons. Like a Guts, Terranormal, Facade, Ursaring would go extremely well. Or even defensively, Natural Stack. That thing with EV Light is actually kind of nice. But
yeah, well, the Terra Masquerain is kind of my fault because for those who don't know, we call Masquerain Zaku's love child. He loves it very much, and I kind of mentioned that it's his love child and he's drafting it. Why aren't you making it a Terra? And he said, "You're right," and made it a Terra.
I mean, that's kind of base at that point. Like, now I don't even care. That's funny. Just do it for the fun.
So I'll take responsibility for that.
He's doing all this for the funny, but it's not that bad of a team. Like, he doesn't have a fire type, which kind of sucks. But again, Terra, Fire, Guzzlord with Flamethrower is like good.
Exactly. That's one thing that I did want to bring up was that two of the best things that I ranked him for. One of them was his Terramons. Masquerain, it can do certain things, but I really like the Guzzlord pick, mainly because of the fact it has an insane HP stat. I think it's 213 base, which means that if you're getting rid of that quad weakness to Fairy, it's not going to go down in one hit. Yes, you can still hit it for super effective damage, but it's no longer going to go down in one hit unless you're way set up, even if it's super effective. It will take one hit, which is super important because, Guzzlord can also hit back at a decent rate as well. I believe it has a base 100 or a little over physical attack. The only thing that hurts it is its speed. However, the other thing that I rated really good for him was his hazards. Quagsire and Knucklestack are two excellent stealth rockers. And Mega Glalie most certainly can bring spikes as well. I've seen it done many times.
Yep.
Quagsire is there and can pretty much bring all three. Like you said, with the sticky webs, he does have that ability. He has a great rapid spin user and Hitmontop, and 2 defoggers if he needs to bring it in Masquerain and Noivern. So I rated his hazards very high, and looking at teams that I ranked with higher hazard setting and removal than him. He has very good hazards. So that was one other thing that I was looking at. And looking at his team overall, while yes, they are all mid-tiers, if you look at it, he has decent offensive and defensive depth as well. It's not all single, physical, special, and he has options to run certain Pokemon in certain ways that he feels like he wants to. So it's not like things are going to be automatically locked into be running this particular set or running these stats every week. He has flexibility.
All right. So I agree with most of what you guys said. We are going to move on to number 14, which happens to be Shaq.
Feels bad, man. He struggled. He struggled with this draft really bad. So yeah, he struggled.
Yeah.
The one thing I did rate, I think the highest thing that I rated him for were his speed tiers. Mainly because you have 5 Pokemon above 100 base speed and then only 2 Pokemon below 90 is absolutely insane. And the only reason why I didn't, give him a higher is because of the fact that when I particularly look at speed tiers, I'm not looking just at, how fast your team is. I'm looking at how well your team is built around certain speed brackets. And with Auroras being there at 58, being your lowest speed, Trick Room can go hard against this team. He has nothing that will be able to help him out with Trick Room. So I expect Trick Room to be brought a couple of times versus him, which is why I didn't give him a even higher grade. His Fairy Dragon Steel Core with Tinkaton and Garchomp is decent. Obviously you're not breaking it into 3, you have 2 Pokemon, but Tinkaton in of itself is a very scary mon if it's not prepped for correctly. And then you add Garchomp in, which does a lot. It's so versatile. It's running defensive, with, Rocky Helmet. You can do offensive. You can do a mixed set. So he definitely has the threats to potentially do well. That and Mega Sharpedo are both very versatile Pokemon, whether you're choosing to do physical or special. The main thing that I have with this team is hazards and its utility. Hazard wise, you're gonna have Garchomp bringing Stealth Rocks a lot. It's also his only spike option. Tinkaton gets Stealth Rocks. However, I feel like Auroras is going to be more situational, so I don't really feel like its Stealth Rock viability is that good. As well as Annihilate getting Stealth Rocks, odds are you're not running it, so I use that into account as well. You have no Toxic Spikes or Sticky Webs. Your only Rapid Spinner is Komala, and your only Defounder is Moltres. So hazards can be a little bit of a problem. I would say more on the setting up side than the getting rid of side. Because if you're not setting them up, then you're really not going to have an issue with Moltres coming in and clicking Defog. And like I said, with the utility, I'm not sold on it either. Having Komala and Pikachu as healing and as a healing cleric being Wish users. Your disruption, you have taunt users, but with knockoff, you're going to be basically using Tink and Komala as knockoff. You have decent status, which is nice. I like the status, but you don't have a Will-O-Wisp user minus Moltres, and you're just going to be running Flame Body on it anyways. So I don't feel like the utility of this team is set up for success.
Yeah, and when you mention the speed, I want to mention how most of these mons are in the mid-high 90s or like the low hundreds. None of them are sitting above 110 besides Electrode or if you get a speed boost with Mega Shark. So for those mons that are 110, 120, you're not going to be able to outspeed them unless you have to run Scarf. So while the team overall is very fast, they're all so similar in base speed where you're gonna anything that's above 110, you're not outspeeding besides Electrode, or you get that boost with Shark or Setup or something. So the like you mentioned, the thing with speed tiers isn't just having a bunch of fast mons. You have to have the variety. You have to have something above 110, something with 100, something with 90, 88. Exactly. And being fast helps, but having so many fast mons that aren't even super fast. You have the one Electrode, obviously, but anything that's above that 110 mark, you're not going to be able to outspeed. And I like the Terra Electrode. It's going to be curious to see how it plays out, because there's not a lot of coverage on that. You're going to have your Electric and your Grass Stab, which are great dual stabs. Any ground type you're going to see, you're going to take care of. The Terra Ice is going to be very nice between those three types. But besides Electric, Grass, and Terra Blast for whatever type you run, you're not going to have a lot of coverage moves to run with. And it gets a few support moves. I believe it gets screens, but not much besides just outspeeding and clicking a strong stab, T-ball, Ice Beam, Terra, whatever. And you mentioned the hazards, but again, there's not a lot of removal with Moltres. You can run a bulky Moltres, but that means you don't get to run with its base 125 special attack, the base 90 speed. You have to run with the base 90s, 85s defenses, and with Boots, Roost, Defog, Flamethrower, and some other fourth move, if you have to run that every single week, it's going to become predictable, and you don't want to be forced to bring in a thing like Komala against all these terrifying threats.
All right.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
So now we're going to move on to 13th place, which, oddly enough, goes to Nickinator. I think it's very low.
That low? Is that because I put myself at last because I'm not biased?
Yes.
Man, that's cringe. Alright, whatever. It's fine.
I feel like I should elaborate on Nickinator's situation. He put himself last because he's not biased. As he said.
In my power rankings in all of my categories, I actually included a bias category.
Oh, okay.
to try and kind of put the difference in it. So, like, for my team, I kind of put, like, a middle ground because I didn't want to be too biased, but I liked the team in general.
Uh-huh.
And then I also rated the other ones based off of how well I like their teams and basically how I know that particular person plays. So I kind of used that as my personal bias category because I felt like that there are certain things that you can't rank based just off of the teams.
Right.
So.
Okay, real quick update. I'm going to start naming the Pokemon on the team just so we have it out there. And so the people... Like, I'm going to put up each team and their Mons on the visual, but in case you're just listening to this audio, Nick has Tapu Koko, Iron Treads, Melodic, Raichu Alolan, Drapion, Hisuian, Typhlosion, Appleton, Dashbun, Kecleon, Unpheasant, Urshifu Rapid, and his Terramons are Raichu Alolan and Appleton. Nick, you want to defend yourself?
I guess I will. Yeah, it's my team. I should defend myself. I should say I do know where I would have put myself if I was not biased, and that's one spot above Gal because Gal sucks. But
Okay. You put the lowest out of everybody.
Exactly. But entirely, I do really like the team that I have built. I think the Coco Iron Treads core is just a ridiculous core that I did not expect to get, sitting, I think, like 7th or 8th in the draft, in the dead middle. I got a Coco Treads core, which to me is phenomenal. I get the defensive core of my Milotic and Appleton. And Terra Appleton at 5 points is a bargain. That thing is tanky, it gets reliable recovery, and Terra Steel with Thick Fat, that's just a great duo. Darkspawn is also a good defensive mon, and again, I believe it resists fire types. Is it immune to fire types with it? Orbite buns, I think. My brains. I forget. But either way, there's a lot of defensive capability, and there's a lot of offense. You have Coco, Drapion can run offense or defensively. Hisui Typhlosion's a great offensive mon, and Terra Alolan Raichu with the electric terrain is going to go nuts. I did not run Terra Ice because everyone tried to peer pressure me into running Terra Ice, so I didn't because I am biased. But regardless, I think there's a lot of mix between offensive, defensive, physical, special for both sides. I think the speed tiers are good. I have a one of 110. I have a guy at 110 plus a lone right true search surfer. I have some in the 90s, some in the 80s. I think the team is very well built. I think my one weakness will be hazards. My best defogger is Coco. I do have Iron Treads for rapid spin. I do have 2 rockers and Great Beyond for T-spikes. So I do think I can work with what's given to me. But at the same time, it's going to be a struggle kind of relying on only 3 months for hazard removal. Only 2 months get rocks, and one of them's Kecleon. But I do love me a Kecleon, so I'll do what I can with it.
Guile, any further comments?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what he was saying. Ironically enough, for where Nick said that he feels like he should be placed, that would have put him at 8th. That is where I have him, is currently in 8th.
Yeah.
As for his team, I agree 100%. As for my rankings, your best numbers were from speed and momentum. Your speed tiers are pretty good. You know, you have Appleton there. That's going to be able to, defer some trick room because it is very bulky, and it's going to be able to take hits, especially as an option to Terra. The other thing that, like I said, that I had high was momentum, and that is because of the fact that all of your Pokemon that get momentum, minus the Unpheasant with U-turn, which is going to be a situational mon, uses it very well. You know, Coco and Urshifu Rapid are going to be using U-turn quite a lot. Coco gets both U-turn and Volt Switch. Alolan 2 and Iron Treads getting Volt Switch, both really good. Milotic can flip turn out, and Darksplit has Baton Pass. So I feel like your momentum, while I wish there was a little bit more to it, like one more Mon that gets U-turn that's decent, all of the Mons that are getting those moves can use them, and that's something that I looked at whenever I made my rankings, is not how many Mons get them, but how often are they going to be used? How good is that Pokemon with that move? You have 3 Pokemon that know U-turn, but they're all trash Mons that are going to be brought maybe to 3 games. You're not going to get a good momentum score, but all of them are going to be used quite frequently and are good at using them. And also, I agree with your hazards. Hazards for me was your lowest score. Because Iron Treads is Stealth Rocks, Kecleon is situational. I do like the Toxic Spikes with Drapion, but only having Defoggers as Unpheasant and Coco, it scares me a bit. However, you do have a Rapid Spin user, which did give you that one extra point that I gave it to you for. Other than that, overall, offense, defense were both mid-high scores. And so were your Terramons. Overall, this is a very solid team. And most of my rankings towards the middle, between like 5 and 10, were extremely close in point totals.
All right. So, we will move on to 12th place, which is owned by the Hope Peak Hydreigans, ran by BK. He has Roaring Moon, Slowbro, Torkoal, Slitherwing, Registeel, Rotom Mow, Weezing, Mismagius, Wigglytuff, Rhyperior, and Regice. And his Terramons are Rotom Mow and Wigglytuff.
Yeah, so the first thing that I'm going to say right here, right now, is that I'm looking at all of the teams that we have. BK has the best defense.
Yeah?
He has the best defense in the entire league. You have Registeel and Regice. Rhyperior is a wall. Slowbro, Torkoal. He has so many Mons that are just not, if they're not defensive, they're bulky.
Yes.
Even, Roaring Moon is more of a physical attacker. But you look at it, it has 105 base HP and 101 base special defense. That thing is not going to be taking a lot of damage from special attacks unless it's obviously fairy. So it's bulky. So I want to say say, looking at his team, I have my doc up. His base defense and base special defense overall is 101 physical and 99 special. So it's absolutely ridiculous. So I wanted to point that out right away. As for his offense, that there is what scares me because, well, this is a team that I actually really like. I feel as if he needs to play it right because something that, scares me and why I put it so low with this team is that momentum. Looking at his team, he doesn't have a lot of momentum. Slitherwing and Moon are going to get U-turn, and Mo is getting switch. Slowbro can obviously, do shenanigans and be your slow out, which is really good. But looking at your Pokemon here, to get your offensive Pokemon in, they're not going to have to take a lot of damage. They need to not take a lot of damage coming in and out. So you need to make sure that you have good momentum to bring those offensive Pokemon in many times. Otherwise you're going to end up losing your offensive Pokemon and you're going to have to rely on defensive tactics. So you need to be aware of that when you're playing your matches on when you're bringing your offensive Pokemon in and how you're bringing them in, because your momentum and getting them in and getting them out is going to be a struggle. The last thing that I wanted to mention about it is a little bit of speed tiers. I do like the 119, 105. I wish there was at least one more Pokemon over base 100 speed. Other than that, because of the fact that you are more bulky, you have a lot of slow Pokemon, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The only bad thing, in my opinion, about it is the fact that you have Mismagius and Slowbro with Trick Room, and Slowbro can, but Mismagius really isn't going to run Trick Room. And if you do that, you're limiting your main offensive weapons because of Mismagius and Roaring Moon being very high speeds. So while I like the team, I'm not sure on the speed tiers specifically for this team. And you're also missing a couple of speed brackets as well.
Nick, any further thoughts?
I got you. This is a extremely defensive team, and the main offensive threats you're going to see are, of course, the Roaring Moon and the Slitherwing. In the Sun, it is a great duo to have. It's the best Sun team you can have, getting the photosynthesis. You're not running just fire and grass types. You're getting actual variety in what you have. But with the defensive stuff, I want to mention 9 of his 11 Pokemon get toxic. The only 2 that might not run it reliably are Mismagius and Runamo. So that means 7 of your 11 mons can reliably run toxic, and that is terrifying. That is a great way to just whittle down your opponent, and when that opponent starts to get low, most of their mons are poisoned. They're all at half, 3/4 health. You bring in Roaring Moon or Slitherwing in the Sun, it's going to wreak havoc. It's going to go off. The only issue that to me is that maybe your main offensive threats with Wing and Moon are both physical, but bringing in offensive Rotom, bringing in nasty plotting Mismagius, that is going to be a nice way to kind of balance the physical and the special offensively, because most of your battles are going to be 70 turns, toxicking everything, clicking recover, clicking wish, whatever screens to not lose in 10 turns. Because I don't think it's going to happen. With how bulky, how defensive this team is, they're going to be lasting 50, 70, 100 turn battles, and you could very well just win 6-0 because of how defensively this team is.
The only other things that I want to add is, when you said the fact that you don't want to lose in 10 turns, the only thing that I don't like about the fact that yes, I like the fact that it's bulky, it's defensive. The more and more I look at this team, though, you need to be mindful, though, if you have an opponent that's smart that can, prevent, the status conditions and stuff like that, this team is very easy to set up on because you don't have a lot of phasing. You only have Wheezing with Haze. You're not reliably going to be running Dragon Tail or Roar because you have Moon and Rhyperior, enemy starts setting up in your face, you're going to need to have an answer from a specific Pokemon. And while you will have a defensive Pokemon that will likely be an answer to it, if it goes ahead and it gets whittled down early, that opens up an opportunity for something that can come in as a choice band or choice specs user to start cleaning up. The only other thing that I wanted to mention when you were talking about Miss Magius a little bit was the fact that while I do like Rotom Mo as a Terramon, I honestly would have preferred Miss Magius. It's a little bit faster, and it has a lot more coverage moves. So I feel like you would have been able to, I think, work a little bit better with the Terra Miss Magius. Also, you're getting nasty plot and stuff like that. I feel like that would have just been a little bit of a better Terramon.
All right. So, with those thoughts in mind, we are going to move to 11th place. The Philadelphia Fan Peas, ran by our gracious host, Brick.
How is he that low?
He's at 11? That's...
How is he that low?
Did Brick also put himself at last?
No. He gave himself 13th, and so did ChatGPT, and those are his lowest rankings.
I was about to say, I'm assuming ChatGPT is what screwed him there. Yeah.
I personally think he should be ranked around 10th or 11th. But yeah, he got 2 13s. So I will go ahead and list off his Mons. He has Chen Pao, Lopunny Mega, Tyrantrum, Tapu Lele, Sceptile, Blaziken, Swampert, Revavroom, Galvantula, Houndstone, and Lickitung. And his Terramons are Tyrantrum and Sceptile.
So, the first things that I'm going to say here about it is, first off, his Terramons are, I think, perfect. You have Tyrantrum, which is close to being one of the most broken Terras that we have allowed in the game. It was borderline bannable for us. Getting rid of that rock type on Tyrantrum is nasty. So you're getting rid of a lot of different weaknesses that Tyrantrum is going to be carrying with it. It sets up 2 Dragon Dances pretty easily with that Terra option, and then after that, it's going to hit you really, really hard. And then obviously Sceptile being able to be using Unburden with its hidden ability as a Terra is also going to be quite hard to deal with. And the other thing that I ranked the highest for Brick, personally, was his speed tiers, and I gave him perfect score on speed tiers. He has really fast Mons, he has really slow Mons, and he covers pretty much all of the speed brackets. There's not a huge difference between a lot of the speed tiers, minus the 60 to 30, which is the only thing that I may have dropped him for, but I decided against in this particular situation because of the fact that he also has stuff like webs. So he'll be able to do some shenanigans with that and help better control those speed tiers. When it comes to his offense and his defense, he's very offensive. He has Chien Pao, Mega Lopunny, both very physical attackers. Same thing with Tyrantrum and Blaziken. He does lack a little bit when it comes to the special side, with only Lele and Blaziken getting really decent special attack. Well, yes, you have Sceptile there. Ideally, you see it if it's being running Terra. More times than not, it probably will be doing physical because of the Swords Dance ability
Right.
that it gets. So I worry a little bit about his ability to break special walls, especially if it's something like a special wall steel type. You'll have options physically, but as when it comes to like specially attacking or physical walls, physical steel walls, because they'll be taking less from special. So like Lele's not going to be able to do a lot to hurt that. And then the defensive side of things, that's where you would struggle. You have some bulk. You have only one Pokemon with over 100 base HP stat being Swampert. You have Houndstone, which will be good physically, defensively, but most of your team is going to be pretty fragile, which means you're going to need some momentum to get around, and you have Pokemon that can get out of there easily. I just wish it was a little bit better. Mega Lopunny and Blaziken with U-Turn, Galv with Volt Switch, Swampert with Flip Turn. You have options there, but for other Pokemon in particular, I think you're going to struggle to bring in and out without taking the damage, especially because you only have one way to get rid of hazards, being Defog. So with you switching out and around a lot to try and get certain things in, you're basically putting yourself into a position where you're sending a Pokemon in maybe 2 times max before it's just done, because if you get hazards set up on you.
Yeah, the biggest issue that I have with this team is you have the webs, but you have no Rabbit Spinner. If you're going to have sticky webs, you have to have at least one Rabbit Spinner. Even if it is a crappy Rabbit Spinner, at least get one, because you don't want to have to defog away your sticky webs. And even then, your only defogger is Blaziken, which is, quite frankly, not a good defogger. You're going to be running more offsets with it. And you get a few other hazards. You got 2 rockers. Swampert, a really good rocker. River Room can run T-Spikes fairly decently, but the hazards is just a big issue. The sticky webs on this team is actually really nice, but again, no Rapid Spinner is just a big issue. I do like the lower tiers he was able to get. I think Swampert was picked at a pretty good value. It was only 11 points. I think it's actually good bulky water. The only issue is that it doesn't get good recovery. Sceptile with Terra at 4 points, paired with Tapuele's Psychic Surge is going to be nice. The big issue that I see, like you mentioned, is that it's very physically offensive. We had the same issue with River's team previously. We have Shempal, Megalob, Tyrantrum, Sceptile. You're going to run a lot of physical sets. Blaziken, Swampert, Revavroom. A lot of these things are very physical. The only special ones you're going to get is Lele and maybe from Galvantula, but it's not all that strong. I would have liked to see him maybe get a Vigavolt instead, just because it's bulkier and it's even stronger on the special side to help out with that. But it's still a very good team, and I like what Shempal and Megalob, and especially like the Terra Tyrantrum. That is one of the best Terras that you could have gotten. I would have liked to see a Terra Revavroom if Tyrantrum didn't exist. I think that's actually a good Terra mod, but again, you got one of the best ones in the game, so there's not much for me to complain.
All right. So, with that out of the way, we will move to 10th place with 63 points is the Louisville Crowbacks, ran by me. So we have Gallade Mega, Volcarona, Dragonite, Palafin, Meowscarada, Ursaluna Blood Moon, and the one of fun ofs, Swirlix, Eevee, Knackley, Elekid, and Wurmple. So
this is one of the teams of all time. It's hard for me to rank this team, especially when I want to go into it with as much as I can. But there's only 6 good mons on this team, and if there was a rule where you had to bring every mon at least once, I don't know, you'd be screwed, right? But that's not a rule, so you can just bring those 6 incredibly good mons every week, and you'd have one of the best 6 mons team we've ever seen. The only issue is you only have 6. If you could have gotten 7, there'd be a little more diversity you can run, but it's just those 6, and every week people are going to prep for those 6, because even if you get rid of one of those 6, what are they going to fight? An Eevee? I think any fighting type someone has can just kill the Eevee real fast. So you're not going to drop Ursaluna Blood Moon for an Eevee. Like, let's be honest. So you have to prep for those 6, but you know what you're prepping for. So that eliminates the entire what mons is he or she gonna bring aspect to Draft League, which I think it's interesting to just to be able to have to prep for this fight. I think I play week 2, I think. So I'll have fun prepping for these 6. But these is an incredible 6 mons. And you split it really well between physical and special, with Ursuluna, Blood Moon, and Volcarona being incredibly special offensive mons, with one getting Calm Mind, the other getting Quiver Dance, and then Masquerada, Palafin, Dragonite, Mega Gallade being great physical mons, great setuppers with Palafin with Bulk Up, Dragonite with D-Dance. I think Gallade gets Sword Stance. He doesn't even need to use Sword Stance to be good. The Fire, Water, Grass core is just amazing between Volk, Palafin, and Masquerada. There's no Steel type, but it doesn't even matter. It's just a great 6 pair of mons. I struggled on where to rank them. I think I ranked you towards the middle of the pack, just because it's such a good pair of 6, but you have no other mons you're going to bring. The speed tiers, I know we talked about those a lot. You have a lot of fast mons. The only slower ones are Blood Moon and Dragonite in the 80s. But it doesn't matter when you have those 6 fantastic mons. It's going to be really hard to find any group of 6 that can wall all 6 of these mons, because I don't think that's possible.
All right, Gal, rail me.
So here's the funny thing, is that in my rankings, you got last in my rankings.
Yes.
But also at the same time, you got the most 10s out of anybody in my rankings. One of the 10s being your Fire, Water, Grass core. Palafin, Volcarona, Meowscarada. I don't even need to talk about it. It's an instant 10. It's so good. And then going off of what Nick was saying about bringing those 6 mons, yeah, most weeks you're going to be bringing those 6 mons. However, I do see a couple of those other mons that you can bring situationally. Elekid can be brought situationally. I would assume maybe one game. Knockley is good defensively more than you think, because with an Eviolite, its physical defense is going to be decent. And it's also your stealth rocker, so I would expect for games where you may need or want stealth rocks because your opponent has basically no way to get rid of them. I kind of expect Knockley to come to a couple games. But the one point mon that I'm actually really interested in, and I think that you'll have the most versatility with potentially bringing, is actually the Swirlix. And that's because of the fact that it gets sticky webs. And if you're able to get up sticky webs, I think it's pretty much going to guarantee certain Pokemon, the ability to, set up and potentially, win without getting outsped. Because, your offense is just absolutely fantastic for your top 6. But you lack a little bit defense. Well, you lack pretty much any kind of defense at all whatsoever. You have Dragonite getting multi-scale, and you have other Pokemon that are fairly bulky, like Blood Moon. When Volcarona is more specially bulky. So I feel like, you have versatility with those 6 Pokemon, though. So it'll be nice, not to just see this Pokemon's offensive, this Pokemon's offensive. You can very easily run more defensive Volcarona with setup a lot easier because you have other threats that can potentially force out certain Pokemon, do certain things. So Volcarona being able to come in and, do more bulky things, same thing with Dragonite, it can potentially, lead to some people, having a lot more trouble against your team because of that fact. They don't know which, Pokemon are going to be more bulky. So will this kill? How much will this do? And then if, that doesn't happen, you're still going to be able to hit back really hard. And, usually those Pokemon, are going to drop. So now maybe that leaves you open for like a Gallade to sweep. So your top 6 is very, very good. Meowscarada getting spikes and toxic spikes is also very good. So the utility with that Pokemon is going to be excellent. You don't have Rapid Spin, but you do have 2 Defog users. And I would expect, because of your team, Dragonite's probably going to be running Defog a couple of times. The only other really, really, really bad thing that I don't particularly like on your team is your utility. Because of the fact that you're basically not going to have any kind of wish user, because Swirlix and Eevee are your wish users, and Swirlix is not going to be brought to every game. You know, and then I also look at stuff like status and stuff like that, and you're gonna struggle a bit there as well. So every week you're gonna have to really kind of dive in and assign certain Pokemon certain jobs to do to allow for your team to do well, unless you're basically just asking to go back and forth with certain teams. This mon kills, this mon kills, this mon kills. There's going to be a lot of revenge killing going on.
Those are both fair points.
And then also you obviously got 0 points for Terra because you didn't give a Terramon at all, even though technically you technically could do 2 1-point Terra Pokemon.
Yeah.
So because of that, I gave you a 0 in Terra.
Yeah, that's fine.
The other 10s I gave you is I gave you a 10 in offense because those 6 Mons are just going to destroy things. And I also gave you a 10 as personal bias because I think this team is absolutely fun to use, and I think it's fun. So you got a 10 on personal bias.
All right. So we will move to 9th place, who are the Whistler Wisps, ran by One Ton Soup. We have Goldengo, Cloyster, Quaquaval, Florges, Cyclizar, Arcanine, Mesprit, Regieleki, Roserade, Regigigas, and Bombardier. And Regigigas and Mesprit are the pair captains.
Alright, well, I'll go first this time. I'm pretty sure I was the one who ranked Soup the highest out of everybody. And I honestly really like his team. It definitely has its glaring issues, don't get me wrong. But overall, I like how this team is built. Especially from a personal standpoint, he got a very high score when it came to my personal bias.
Right.
Things that I do think he's going to struggle with. I think his Terramons aren't necessarily the best options. So he got a low score there. He also got a lower score in hazards, but not for hazard removal. For hazard setters, I think he could really use another stealth rocker, reliable stealth rocker besides Mesprit. He has Bombardier as another stealth rocker, but Bombardier's not going to be coming a lot to games. It's going to be more of a situational Pokemon. So he's going to struggle with that aspect of it. However, having 2 spikes and 2 toxic spike users is fantastic. Florges is getting defogged, but you have 4 rapid spin users. So, Hazard's probably not going to be brought a lot versus you. However, you also look at the fact that your speed tiers, like I said earlier, if we're going off of how fast a team is, you have the best speed tiers. But your slowest Pokemon is Cloyster with 70 base speed. Literally, we click Trick Room versus you, and you're going to struggle, because another thing that you also struggle with, in my opinion, is defense. You have Mesprit, you have Florges. There are other Pokemon that are bulky and can do certain things, but ideally Goldengo's want to kind of be more offensive or an offensive utility. And obviously, if Cloyster's coming, it's going to be offensive. It'll take physical hits, but it's not going to take any special hits at all whatsoever. So defensively, you're going to struggle against certain teams, especially, I think especially, even though you do have the Florges there, I think you're still going to struggle more specially. And another reason why you look at these stats, the reason why they're bulked up so much is because Regigigas has 110 base defense stats and HP across the board, but that thing has slow start. So, um, it's going to struggle because you look at the base totals for the entire team. Your HP stat is 78, and that's not the best in the world. However, there are things that I do like. Your Fairy Dragon Steel Core is insane. Your momentum is just bonkers. Alright, I'll leave it off at the momentum, just because of the fact that I love this momentum, because I'm going to read it all out, okay? So, U-turn, Bomberder, Cyclozar, Mesprit, Quaquaval. Volt switch, you have Regieleki. Flip turn, you have Quaquaval. Teleport has Arcanine, with Arcanine and Cloyster. I forget if Shed-Tail's banned. And then Baton Pass in Quaquaval, Mesprit, and Florges. You have so much momentum to get in and out of certain Pokemon on your team. And I think that there is going to be a huge benefit for you because of the fact that your defense isn't as good. And if you're able to switch in and out and you are able to get up hazards and easily get rid of your opponent's hazards that they set up, I think that's how you win your games. And I think that's kind of how he built this team, which is why I like it so much.
Yeah, I think I have a lot more issues with this team. Obviously, there are good things. I think Udengo's a really good mon. I think Guacaval's another really good mon. I do want to start with the Terramons. I don't think Mesprit is the greatest of main Terramons. I think you could have gotten better value with getting something like Cyclozar as your 10-point Terra. I think that if you're going to go with Regigigas as your 5-point Terra, why not go with Cyclozar? Alright? You already have two normal types, one being Regigigas, one being Cyclozar. So you can make Cyclozar your Terramon. You're going to be using it a lot more as a pivot defensive mon, regenerator, and U-turn, because Shed-Tail is banned.
Yes.
It would be a lot more than 10 points. If it didn't have Shed-Tail. But without it, it's still a very good, fast pivot mon. You can run AV, you can run U-turn, let it, Terra, you can run nice offensive sets with it. I have faced Terra Cyclozars in the past, and they're not that bad. It is very fast. It actually can put out some damage, but it is mainly going to be a very fast pivoting mon, and with the Terra, it can kind of jumble you up. But to me, there's a lot of, it feels like there's some overlaps here. Regieleki and Cyclozar, I feel like, do similar aspects. They're very fast and very more pivoting mons that are kind of doing the exact same thing. One clicks U-turn, the other clicks full turn. You have Regigigas, which won't do much. I think my biggest issue is you have, in the first 3 rounds, you get Goldenga, which is a very good mon. But then you double up on the water types with Cloyster and Quaquaval, which I think are both going to do the exact same thing. And they are just offensive water types are going to set up and hope they can just sweep immediately. Cloyster with Shell Smash, and then Quaquaval with Moxie, Aqua Step Boost. Both of them are good mons, but I feel like you have a lot of different mons that are trying to do the exact same thing, and I think that could end up being the downfall. I do like Florges as the Wish heal bow user of the team. I'd say, no, I like nothing else. I'm not something else, but they don't. But I like the momentum you get. I like the statuses. The hazards is really good. Obviously, you have 4 rapid spinners. Cyclozar is going to use it well. Regieleki is going to use it well. And that means you don't have to force yourself to run it on things like Quaquaval and Cloyster. And I think my biggest issue is Roserade in general. I think Roserade just isn't that good now that Hidden Power is gone. Because I'm 100% on its fall. I'm sorry, but since Hidden Power has been gone, it loses what it can do. Hidden Power Ice Technician was just really good. And then it doesn't get it. Terra Blast doesn't get boosted by Technician. So a lot of those Technician boosts you don't get. And Roserade doesn't have a lot of status to begin with. So that Hidden Power really helped it back when Hidden Power existed. So it's mainly going to get used as a T-Spike setter, which is a good role to have. But Cloyster has the same thing. So again, there's a lot of different mons that do similar things. It allows you to run Cloyster as a Shell Smash mon every time, but I think Shell Smash is just not as good as years past because Mirror Herb exists, I have seen Terra Dreadnought, Terra Torterra, Cloisters, any Shellsters one now. If you just switch in a better mon with Mirror Herb, you'll just reverse sweep. And you have to work around it, so that means you can't run Shell Smash every single week. And, like, you can run a bulky water set, but I want this team to be good. It looks like it could be good. And knowing Soup, he's going to make it good. But there's some issues that I have with it that I feel like won't end well for Soup.
I'm going to add one thing to it. Obviously, you're right with Roserade not getting the hidden power technician. That does kind of hurt it. However, it can do a little bit more than you think it does. It does get a couple more coverage moves with Extra Sensory and Dazzling Gleam. I like the fact that it gets Aromatherapy, so that way you can also open up a slot on Forges to run something like Psychic. And the other thing that I really like that Roserade brings, it gives you a Spore user.
Alright.
Roserade gets Spore.
Doesn't it get Spore?
I don't remember it. Maybe I'm just losing my mind. Alright, now we gotta check.
Yep.
Oh, no, it doesn't get Spore. It does not. My bad.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah,
that's better. But yeah, it does get Sleep Powder and Stun Spore. That's what I was thinking of. So
okay. Roserade's not mushroom. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't know why I said Spore. I meant Sleep Powder.
It's the same thing, but worse.
It is, but it does get it. So.
Alright. So now we move into the top half of the teams. Hope you're in for the long haul, guys. In 8th place with 54 points is Saigai, the Applethorn Owlstalls, Iron Bundle, Diancie Mega, Celesteela, Iron Hands, Swellow, Wordeer, Amoongus, Furret, Pyroar, Zweilous, Flygon, and his Terra Captains are Swellow and Pyroar.
I just want to say, what position is he at?
8.
8? That is way too damn low for this team. This team is really good, I feel. I think I had him 4th, I think. So,
yes.
To me, this is really low. I do think there are some issues, which is why he's not number 1 for me. But I think this is a really good team, especially after he did all of his free agents, considering Gal knows exactly what happened. But
yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. not on YouTube. I won't comment it publicly.
Understandable. I will, because I have nothing to do with it. But getting the fairy type in Mega Diancie is nice, because at first he didn't have one. But regardless, I think
they have fairy type. He had Terra Fairy Pyroar. That was his answer to my Regidrago. Now I'm done.
Alright, we're done. We're over it. Moving on. Anyways, I think the Firewater Grass Core is good. The Fairy Dragon Steel Core is really good. I will say, I do think he missed an opportunity with picking Swellow as his Terramon over Flygon. I think Flygon would have been a fantastic Terramon. Getting rid of the 4 times to Ice would have just been ridiculous. Cooking Terra Dragon, Dragon Claw, Outrage, whatever, Terra Ground Earthquakes, turning into a Terra Steel with Levitate, that would have been great. I do see the appeal with a Terra Swellow getting Guts Facade. It's still a good Terramon. I just think, to me, a Terra Flygon would have been even better. Terra Pyroar is fine. It's interesting to make sure Fire type just a little bit better. You can actually maybe use Moxie and run Terra Grass, Terra Blast, Terra Grass or something to kill a water type, and now you're +1 attack or something happened to him. But my biggest thing is we let Saigai get Celesteela, which is terrifying. I have seen him run Celesteela 3 leagues in a row, and he is incredibly good with it. And this was back in like a Gen 7, Gen 8 league, so we'll see how it plays in Gen 9. But I still think he is going to be ridiculous with that thing. I'm terrified that he is in my division. And I think he's going to love having the Iron Bundle, Iron Hands combination. I think both of those mods are going to play really well together. I think they merge together nice. Iron Hands like the ground types. Iron Bundle, you have the ice and the water types. It just goes hand in hand. Iron Hands, literally. Again, the Terra Swallow is a nice pickup. Flygon, even without Terra, is a good mod. The Amoonguss for the defensive capability to pair with Celesteela and the Iron Hands. It actually does get Spore on the Res Raid. And again, the Mega Diancie, that is going to be a threat. That is probably his biggest offensive threat, along with Iron Bundle and Terra Swallow. It's going to be fun to see what he does with the Diancie. And even if you don't Mega it, you have a nice bulky option with pure Diancie, but 9 times out of 10, he's going to Mega it to get that offensive speed demon that is Mega Diancie. There's so many threats on this team, and I think he could work with literally anything, and I think he's going to make even Furret and Swila's work, because it's a guy I think he can make any mod work. I've seen him battle for years now. It's been a while since I've seen him. I think he was retired for a little bit, but he is back, and he is ready to take the league by storm. Yeah, so the things that I'm going to say about Saigai's team is I pretty much 100% agree with everything that you said. Saigai's team is just absolutely just scary. And, however, from my categories that I had ranked certain and gave points to certain teams, in general, Saigai's team should be higher than where it is and where I put it at, I think, 9th. But because I did more of a point system, every single category except 2 got 7 or higher. But the 2 categories that got lower than 7 were so bad that it pumped it down really, really far. But one of those categories is hazards. You have Mega Diancie with Magic Bounce, which will help with not getting hazards set up. And you have Defog in Swallow and Flygon. Neither of them particularly want to be running Defog. However, you have no webs, no rapid spin, no toxic spikes, and Mega Diancie is your only stealth rocker and your only spiker. That is abysmal. You have basically no hazards at all whatsoever. Mega Diancie is going to be forced to run those on certain weeks, have to deal with certain issues. So basically what I'm seeing here from this is that he's just planning on playing with absolutely no hazards at all whatsoever. So he got a very low score in hazards, and the other thing that he got a really low score on is utility, which is weird, because usually he's really good with utility, but he has no clerics at all, except for Diancie getting Heal Bell. He only has Furret that gets Knockoff. He does have 2 Pokemon that get Encore, 2 that get Trick. Weirdeer gets Trick. Furret can come occasionally, but it being only Knockoff user is going to be really hard for him. And then you look at status, that's fairly decent. You have Amoonguss, that does get Spore. But you look at Zweilous and Weirdeer as your only T-Wave users. Pyroar is your only Will-O-Wisp user. Toxic is fine, but so many mods get Toxic. You don't really have anything that is, going to be helping you, like, weather-wise, terrain-wise. So, in general, I look at it, and I don't see a lot of utility being used here. So you do that on top of the fact that you're not bringing hazards. That is my big issue with this team. Other than that, everything else looks great. Your Fairy Dragon Steel Core is insane with Mega Diancie, Flygon, Celesteela. It's just absolutely crazy. I love it. And then your offense also in general. You have so many options. You have Bundle, Diancie, Swallow, Flygon. Celesteela can be offensive or defensive. Zweilous hits harder than you think it does. Iron Hands is fantastic and also bulky if you put an Assault Vest on it. It's absolutely crazy what this team can do offensively, and it has the bulk to deal with it in its HP. However, I am also a little worried about its special defense, though. Mega Diancie and Celesteela are going to be your main 2 special walls, unless you run something like Assault Vest Iron Hands or Assault Vest Amoonguss.
So other than that, everything else, like I said, was rated extremely, extremely high. And I know Sagai, and I know that he'll do well with this team.
All right. And with that, we move into top 7. In 7th place, we have the Virginia Vibravas, ran by Ace. He has Enamorus, Baxcalibur, King Gambit, Rotom Heat, Ogerpon Wellspring, Sandy Shocks, Vanillux, Primeape, Prinplup, Glamet, and Bayonet Mega. And his Terra Captains are Primeape and Glimmet.
Alright, so let's see. With Ace, the main issues, I'll start with the issues that I have with Ace. The lowest that I gave him was in utility and defense. As for your utility, you don't have a wish healing / cleric user. Basically, Enamorus gets healing wish, but you're not going to be using it. You also have, I forgot, yeah, you also have momentum. The only reason why you got a higher score off of momentum is because you have 2 U-turn users and 2 Volt Switch users that are using those moves. They are excellent users of those moves. So that's the only reason why it wasn't as low, considering you don't have as much momentum. You look at your knockoff users, you have 2 reliable knockoff users in Mega Bayonet and Ogerpon, but ideally I would assume Ogerpon may or may not be running the knockoff. Your status is decent. It's okay. You're going to be doing certain things with it. But I don't really see just a lot of cohesion with the utility that you do have. And then the other thing was defense. And I really struggle with this team defensively. You have Rotom that's going to be able to take hits. You have a couple other things that are a little bit more bulky that might be able to take hits now and then. But in general, you're a very offensively based team. And with a 74 overall base HP, 82 in physical, and 84 in special defense, you are a offensive team. So I expect a lot of trading going back and forth. So you're going to need to prioritize certain Pokemon in certain situations, which is fine. Your Fairy Dragon Steel Core is insane. With Enamorus, Baxcalibur, and King Gambit, probably one of the best in the league. And your speed tiers are pretty decent as well. You fill all the speed brackets pretty much. The only things that I see is I wish you had 1 Mon above 110, and I wish you had 1 Mon below 50 in the speed tiers, but overall they're not that bad. And then you have great hazards. I do wish that you just had a rapid spin user because you have good hazards. Only having Prinplup and Heat as a default user, you're going to be able to get hazards up, but you're not really going to be able to reliably keep them on or get rid of hazards on your side of the field.
This is a team that I really liked looking at it. I think there's a few more issues than I might have realized at first. Mainly being that there's not a lot of defoggers or rapid spinners. You only have Rotom Heat and Prinplup. So I think there's going to be a lot of defensive Rotom Heats coming along from Ace. But besides that, every week basically, yeah. And that there is no cleric. I would have liked to see another cleric besides maybe over Prinplup, because you don't really need Prinplup. I think Ogerpon Wellspring is a really good bulky water. I've used it myself. You can run it offensively or defensively. I think it is actually a pretty good mod on its own. So I don't see that much of a need for Prinplup. I know you needed a mod that was at a low value. It was only 2 points. So there's not many 2-pointers you're going to be able to get for a cleric. But at least try and get something. You were able to get Glimmet for 2 points, I'm assuming. So you can make something work. And Glimmet isn't to be scoffed at. It has a lot of hazards, and it has 105 special attack, which is kind of crazy for not that good of a mod. But I think the Fairy Dragon Steel Core is going to carry this team because it is just fantastic. This might be one of the best Fairy Dragon Steels I have seen in a draft form with the Namorous, Excalibur, and King Gambit. That is absurd. Yeah. And you get a Hail Setter with Vanillix, with Aurora Veil. If you can get Excalibur in snow behind a Veil, that thing's going to win the game. It's so difficult to stop. I think the only thing that I have found to maybe stop it is Orthworm. Maybe that's it, because it's immune to ground types. But I think Excalibur gets a fighting type move anyways. So
Bring in Dondozo.
Dondozo! That's like it. Like body press Dondozo and like a Max Vizdev Orthworm is like the only thing that can stop a setup Excalibur. That is it. And there's not a lot of those running around, believe it or not. So if Excalibur gets a Dragon Dance up or gets a Swords Dance and a Scale Shot off, you're probably losing the game. And there's a lot of physical mons on this team, but unlike other teams, this team has a lot of special capability. And Namorous, I almost said Ogremon, Sandy Shock's tier 1 special, Run of Heat, Vanillux tier 1 special. A lot of these mons are going to be able to run both, and it's such a good, well-rounded team, and I just love that Fairy Dragon Steel so much. I love the Rotom, I love the Ogremon, and I love the Primeape. I think Terra Primeape for, 6 points? That's absurd. Eviolite, Terra Ghost, Rage Fist, it's wraps. It's not one of the best, obviously, but I think for its value, that is one of the best value you can get from a Terramon, and I was looking at it myself. If I didn't get my Raichu at 9, I would have gotten a lower tier 1 and gotten a Terra Primate, because that is just such a great low tier Terramon that I would have liked to see a better pairing with it than Glimmet. You could have paired it with Vanillux, and I think getting a Terra Vanillux would have been really nice. I think he originally had it with Vanillux, but switched it over to Glimmet, and I think that might have been a mistake. I think getting rid of the Ice type on Vanillux, getting Terra Water on a defense of Vanillux that can have a little bit of speed to get the Veil off a little faster, that could have been nice to see, but as of right now, it is Glimmet, which you're not going to tear it most of the time. It's normally going to be Primeape. But again, I love the Terra Primeape so much that it, to the point where it might not even matter.
The last thing I'll say about this team is he drafted Mega Maynette, which makes me happy.
Mega Maynette.
Nick knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
And I'm sure our eagle-eared listeners will too. So, with that, we will move up to 6th place. That is with 50 points. We have the Connecticut Conkeldurs, ran by Nikki. He has Dragapult, Mega Mawile, Ogerpon Hearthflame, Excadrill, Mandibuzz, Farigiraf, Vaporeon, Gigalith, Coughing, Geodude, Alola, and Caterpie. And the Terra Captains are Farigiraf and Gigalith.
I think it's fitting for me to start because I already put my week 1. My week 1 was against this team. I did get a little lucky. But besides that, this is a really good team. When I first saw that I had to play Nikki week 1, I was a little scared. Because just the main core of this team with Dragapult, Mega Mawile, and Ogremon, that is a terrifying core. And because you have Mega Mawile and Ogremon Hearthflame, you don't have to force yourself into running a physical Dragapult that much when you can run a bulky one with Will-O-Wisp Hex, or you can run just special with Specs or Life Orb and just wreck damage. And those main 3 alone would be terrifying. But then you have Sand, and I like Sand. I've used it before. I've made finals with Sand before, so I know what Sand does. I like Sand a lot. And you got Gigalith with Terra? We allowed that? That is kind of stupid to me. But Terra Gigalith is just a really good mon. It can run Terra Fighting Body Press. I assume it gets Body Press, but even if it doesn't, Terra Fighting, Terra Steel, Terra Ground, whatever you want to run, it is a great Terramon to use. It's kind of like a budget Garganackle if it did get Recover. That's basically what Gigalith is, but it can set up sand. And I think pairing that with Extra Drill, with the Ogerpon, with the Mega Mawile, with the Dragon Pole is really nice. And you might think, okay, there's not a lot of defense, but then you got Mandibuzz, you have Vaporeon, Terra Gigalith again is a great defensive trio. And Ferrograth is not to be scoffed at. I almost got swept by Terra Ferrograth week 1. So it is not to be scoffed at. I have used Ferrograth before without Terra, but it is a good mon. I like what it brings to the table. It gives you the special attacking that you need that you don't get from anything other things besides Dragon Pole. So I think it's very good to balance it out. You get Rapid Spin from the Extra Drill, but it's just the Extra Drill, which is a little upsetting. But you do get Defog from Mandibuzz, and you're not too worried about running webs because you don't get it. You have 4 different rockers, one of them being a Geodude. So you really only have 3 rockers, but Gigalith is a fantastic rocker. You get T-Spikes from Coughing. I would have liked to see a more reliable grounded poison type to get rid of potential T-Spikes, but he can run Neutralizing Gas to have that grounded poison type, but you would lose on the Levitate, obviously. I think he's got a really good Wish Claricmon with Vaporeon, and Ferrograth also gets Wish. You got 4 Baton Pass users with Vape, Ferrograth, Mawile, Pulp. Vape gets Heal Bell, which is nice. She has Taunters. A lot of these mons get Toxic with Mandibuzz, Vaporeon, Gigalith. I think this is a very nice team. I would have liked to see a little bit more speed, but I think the Sand Force boost from Extra Drill will help out. I think you can set up with a lot of things. Mawile gets priority. I don't think Ogerpon gets it, but I think you can set up with Trailblaze to become even faster. So it's a bit of a slower team, but I think all around you have options to be able to get faster. I think it's very strong physically.
Ogerpon does get quick attack.
It gets quick attack, but are we running quick attack Ogerpon in this economy? I don't know about that one.
Yes, of course we're running quick attack.
Obviously.
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Who wouldn't? That's if you go first, you're winning, obviously. But it's an extremely good team. I think I had it 5th, which is about where the overall average was for this team. I do think there are some weaknesses. It's not as special attack oriented as one would hope. Of course, you do have the Dragon Pole. Special Dragon Pole is very good. Vaporeon isn't that bad, especially Ferrograth is also fairly decent, especially besides those 3, you don't have a lot on the special side, so you're going to see a lot of more physical threats. I had the physical defense of Appleton, helped me out a lot. So we're going to see what happens throughout the rest of the season, being able to run more special teams, but we'll see if he can get through it.
So here's my thing on this team here is I think I rated it the lowest out of everybody, and it wasn't for the fact that this team had bad numbers either. It didn't have any numbers above 8, but it only had 1 number below 6. So it was very middle ground throughout the entirety of everything that I ranked it as. The lowest thing that I ranked it was actually Hazards. And that was the 5, because, in my opinion, I looked at it like this here. Alolan Geodude is not coming. Gigalith is going to be your stealth rocker. Excadrill on maybe special occasions. You're going to be using it to use Sand with Gigalith. Mega Mawile is not going to be running stealth rocks. When you're running Ogerpon, odds are it does get spikes, but you're probably not running it with spikes. Coughing is an occasional budget in Pokemon for toxic spikes. Don't have sticky webs. Mandibuzz is a reliable defogger, and Excadrill is a reliable rapid spinner. However, if you're running it with Sand, once again, you're going to be relying a lot on the Sand to boost your speed, and you're probably not going to be wanting to run Rapid Spin to boost that speed, because that would also take away from your ability to hit certain Pokemon on your opponent's team. So for me, Hazard was a little bit of an issue because I only see 1 really reliable rocker and 1 occasional rocker, and 1 occasional T-Spike user, and 1 really good defog user. The Rapid Spin, either way. However, there were things that I didn't like, and he had a lot of 8s. His Fairy Dragon Steel Core is disturbing. And also his Terramons, I think, are one of the better Terra captains in the entire game. Like you were saying with Farigiraf, I'm a huge fan of Farigiraf on this team. It can hit you really hard, especially, and I think it's one of his better, especially offensive Pokemon, which he does struggle to bring. Dragapult does have the option to run special because he does have a lot of physical, but I look at it, and other than that, I literally see Farigiraf, and that's it. Technically, Vaporeon has a 110 base special attack, but you look at it, and it's going to be trying to run more defensive a lot of times. He'll be able to hit you decently hard for a Scald or an Ice Beam, but you're not really going to be running Vaporeon, offensively. So I struggle with that. But going back to Farigiraf, without it being special, it's so good when it comes to the fact that it can be bulky with its 120 base HP, and it's such a good utility user. A fast, hard-hitting Pokemon with utility, in my opinion, is the best Pokemon to have in a draft league. And for that reason, utility is the other thing that got me on this team. Two-ish users that are really good, Farigiraf and Vaporeon. You also have 3 Pokemon that will be running knockoff, Mandibuzz, Mega Mawile, and Ogerpon. All 3 of them will be running it. I'm looking at his phasing. He has Coughing and Vaporeon with Haze. Mandibuzz gets Whirlwind. He has decent phasing that can allow things to go and force them out. As for your status users, I worry a little bit about Will-O-Wisp with it being just Dragapult and Coughing. Farigiraf is a great Thunder Wave user. I've used it so many times. Toxic gets used by a lot of Pokemon. Vaporeon's going to be using it. Mandibuzz is going to be using it. Gigalith is going to be using it. So you have really good options there. Farigiraf gets screens. That helps you. You have Sand, which also adds to your total there because you have the extra drilling Sand. That's going to be absolutely insane to stop when you pair it with stuff like the Mega Mawile and Dragapult. It gives you that next level of speed, which I do think you're going to struggle with, considering you only have Dragapult and Ogerpon above base 100. Because you're not bringing Geodude or Caterpie more than once to the game this entire season, which kind of takes away from that lower tier bracket. So I look at this team and I don't see any major issues, but I don't see anything that just screams that it's just way over the top either, which is why I think 8 is kind of where I capped things off. And a lot of that has to deal with the fact of the Mega Mawile, Dragapult, and the Sand Core is what got those 8s for me.
Alright. So I think with that, we will move to 5th place. So, in 5th place, we have the leader of the Jungle Gang, Negaloser. And he's got Tornadus Therian, Sneasler, Ferrothorn, Mega Swampert, Pelipper, Screamtail, Colossal, Manectric, Drampa, Ariados, and Misdreavus, and his Terra Captains are Colossal and Misdreavus.
Alright, let's start with one thing here. I'm just going to say this right off the bat, and it has nothing to do with his team, it has to do with me. I despise rain teams, not for the fact that it's hard to work around. I just don't like rain teams in general.
Okay.
So this one was hard for me to rate, simply for the reason of I had to try to be as non-biased to it as possible. Because in my heart, I'm just like, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. But I had to look at it from a different perspective. So when it comes to his Fire, Water, Grass core, obviously the water and the grass type is great. I like Colossal as a Terra, but you're losing that fire type potentially when you Terra it, and also Colossal as a fire type. I'm not sold on it. So you have a good score based off of, stuff like Mega Swampert and Ferrothorn, which is what I used as the water and the grass type. But it just didn't send it over the top. As for your Fairy Dragon Steel Core, once again, in my opinion, Screamtail Ferrothorn is excellent. Drampa is, obviously the special attack stat is insane. But there are better dragon types there and available to you, especially if you are running something like Rain. There's other things available to you that dragon types can get boosted from. Dracovish was there, Kingdra was there. Now, obviously, Drampa is a budget pick because you have other Mons, but I wasn't sold on the Drampa. One thing that I'm really, really happy about this team with are your hazards. Congratulations, you are the only team that I have ranked to get a 10 in hazards. Congratulations. You have 4 reliable Stealth Rockers, Screamtail, Mega Swampert, Ferrothorn, Colossal. 2 really good Spike users, Colossal and Ferrothorn. Ariados and Sneasler are decent Toxic Spike users. Ariados comes on occasion to put up Sticky Webs. You have a Rain team, though. You're getting boosts in speed. Sticky Webs doesn't need to be brought to every game, so getting a budget Sticky Web user is very smart. Defog in Torn, Pelipper, and Drampa, and you do have 1 Rapid Spin user in Colossal. Would have liked to see a little bit of a better Rapid Spin user, but looking at the rest of your hazards, I'm okay with it. So you were the only person to get a 10 on hazards, so congratulations on that. The other thing that you did really well with, despite the fact that you only have 1 cleric and healing user with Wish is Screamtail, you still got a 10 in utility. As much as I hate Rain, the utility of it is good. And you have a solid Rain team. You have good disruption with knockoff and taunts. Ferrothorn, Pelipper, Torn getting knockoff. Screamtail is excellent when it comes to stuff like utility, Encore, Trick, stuff like that. Super, super good. Your phasing is not the best, but I'm not really worried about that looking at your team. But your statuses is insane. You're going to be able to get a lot of Thunder Waves off. Drampa, Screamtail, Ferrothorn. If Manectric comes, you can bring it. Toxic is brought by a lot of Mons. Will-O-Wisp, like I said, I wish there was something a little better, but Colossal is there, Mistrevis as well. It's understandable, and it's valid. Like I said, you have your weather core, which is insane. So overall, like I said, the utility is there. I do like your Terra options in Colossal and Mistrevis. Looking at your team, there really wasn't a huge amount of other options because a lot of your Pokemon are higher. Manectric or Drampa could have potentially been other options besides the Mistrevis, but I know what you were going for when you picked Mistrevis. Same thing with Colossal. You're setting up Rain, and Colossal is 4 times weak to water. Getting rid of that weakness to water is going to be super good for you, especially with Steam Engine. So I do appreciate the fact that you chose Colossal and Mistrevis. I think both of them were very smart choices. So overall, this was a very good team, and I don't really have anything horrible to say about it, except for the fact that I don't like Rain.
I will join Gal on the bandwagon that Rain sucks. My only hatred is it's good, so I hate it, right? Because if it's good, why draft it? Give yourself a challenge. But regardless, this is a extremely good Rain team with Mega Swampert.
Man that drafted Electric Terrain, Coco, Raichu.
I have Torkoal, Walking Wig, Slitherwing, and Brubana in a different league, by the way. So
exactly. Why are you saying that?
Because it's not Rain. Alright. But the Rain core of this team is just ridiculous with 20 Ferrothorn, Megapert, Pelipper. And because you only have the one Swissstone user, you don't force yourself into running Rain every single week, because otherwise teams know what to prep for. But you can prep for Torntea, Sneasler, Ferrothorn, and you can bring other mons like Screamtail, Colossal, and Manectric, and you just don't have to bring Rain if it's not a good matchup. You don't have to force yourself into running it, which is something that I think most Rain teams neglect to think about, and I think this is the best thing he could have done with the Rain team.
Yeah.
I think the speed tiers are really good. I think he's got some of the 120s and the 110s. I would have liked to see some that were a little faster, like in the 90s. But besides that, I think he has some good tiers. I think a lot of them are slow. So if you want to bring Trick Room, you could. I think Screamtail gets Trick Room. I would presume it does. But I will say with the Terramons,
Screamtail and Misdreavus get Trick Room.
Alright, well, that close enough. But I do want to say, I think I would have loved to seen Drampa get Terra over the Misdreavus, because Terra flying Hurricanes in the rain from Drampa would go crazy. I understand you have 2 other flying types already, but it'd be really funny. and I love Drampa. So seeing Drampa do good things would make me very happy. The other thing I want to mention is there's a lot of toxic users on this team. Aridos, Drampa, Ferrothorn. A lot of them might not run it, but the main ones with Ferrothorn, Drampa, maybe fast pivoting Pelipper, maybe a bulky Torntea is going to run it. So there's a lot of different variations. You have a lot of T-Wave users with Screamtail especially. Screamtail just gives you a lot of variety. You get the Wish, you get the Baton Pass, you get the screens. It's going to be very fast. It's going to give you a lot of support, and it's one of the best support mounts in the game. I think it was a little overpriced at like 12, I think. I think 11 or 10 could have been a little better, but I get why it's 12 because it's still a good mod. It even gets rocks for whatever reason, so just throw it on there.
I know why it's 12.
Why is it 12?
It's in certain situations that thing cannot go down. Certain teams can beat it. Certain teams can beat it, yes, but there are also other certain teams that can't touch it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's some teams where if your one main offensive threat is a dragon type, you're not touching it. And like
or fairy type, or psychic type.
Yep. Psychic especially, yeah. Psychics are not touching this thing. But I think there's a lot of hazard. You got a lot of good removal, a lot of good hazards. You mentioned he was only number 10 for hazards. I get it. Yeah, there's a lot of good hazard mods here. I think getting Colossal for Terra is really good, especially in the rain. Terra Water, Steam Engine in the rain. Yeah, that's just good. It's a little predictable because I think we all know what he's going for with it. But still, he could predict you to not use a water move, thinking, oh, he's going to Terra, he's going to get a Steam Engine boost. Then he doesn't Terra, and then he gets you or something, I don't know. But regardless, I think it's a good team. He was my second greatest team for my personal power ranking, so obviously I think it's a great team. It's going to be very hard to build around the Rain, the Tornadus, the Screamtail. If there's a Terra Tramp in the future, please get Terra Tramp. I just love that. And then just Sneasler's there just because he doesn't even need a Sneasler, but it's there because it's just going to do Sneasler things.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, if it wasn't for the fact that my personal bias was put at the lowest for any team because I don't like rain teams, he would have ended up second overall in my power rankings if it wasn't for that.
Gotcha.
But I did add it in, so he ended up, I think, in 6th in mine. But, you know, I like to include a personal bias category in my power rankings, so.
All right, and with that, we move into the top 4. I think these are all really elite teams. So, moving on to 4th place, we have the Kansas City Bug Club headed up by Boaz. He has Ogerpon Cornerstone, Empoleon, Tomo-O, Zeraora, Gleesaur, Gardevoir, Sableye Mega, Beedrill, Bouffalant, Mr. Rom, and Rapidash.
So with this team here, I talked really good about Mega Loser and his hazards. Going through all of the other rest of the teams, like I said, nobody got another 10, but Boaz was the only one that got a 9 for me in hazards. So, so when it comes to that as well, Boaz also has really good hazards, and that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. Kamoa was obviously going to be run offensively a lot. However, please do not sleep on a defensive Kamoa with Stealth Rocks. Please do not. That thing is so insanely bulky against certain teams. It can run Stealth Rocks. And then you have two other Pokemon that will be running Stealth Rocks quite often in Gliscor and Empoleon. You have Spikes with Cornerstone and Gliscor. You have Toxic Spikes with Gliscor and Beedrill. You don't have Sticky Webs. That is why you didn't get a 10. You have 3 good defog users. Well, 2 good defog users in Gliscor and Empoleon. You do have Beedrill with defog. I once again do wish you had one little bit better Rapid Spinner besides Mr. Rhyme, but I'm not knocking you for that one on this instance. Definitely one of the better hazard set and removal teams in the league. The other thing that I ranked you really, really good for, and I gave you a perfect 10 in, is your speed tiers. Your speed tiers are really, really good. You have fast Pokemon like Zeraora with 143. You do have a base 110, and you have 3 Pokemon over 100. That's a plus in my book. You cover basically all of the speed tiers that you need to. 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. You don't have anything lower than that except for Mega Sableye with 20. But I'm honestly okay with that because Mega Sableye is so insanely bulky, and it's going to be stopping Trick Room from being brought against you in most cases. So I look at it like that as well. Your Firewater Grass Core, in my opinion, is just mid. And the reason why is because of Rapidash. If you look at just Cornerstone and Empoleon, it's insanely good. I'm just not personally a fan of Rapidash. I feel like that there was something that you could have gotten that would have been a little bit better. I think even something maybe like Typhlosion to potentially, boost your special attack, which is a little bit on the low side overall when it comes to special attackers. Would have been potentially a little bit better, and not only would that probably have boosted your offensive score, but it most certainly would have boosted your Firewater Grass score. As for your Fairy Dragon Steel, it's very, very good. You have Komodo, Gardevoir, and Empoleon. That's insanely good. I really like it. And then you also, the last thing that I wanted to mention was between the utility and the defense here. Not only do you have good defensive Pokemon like Mega Sableye, Gliscor, Empoleon, stuff like that, the utility with your defense and your bulk that you have as well, especially in your specially defensive bulk, is really, really good when it comes to utility. You do have a Wish and Cleric user in Gardevoir, which I do struggle with a little bit because Gardevoir is going to be used a lot to potentially deal with, physical walls. Because it's going to be your main one of, if not your main special attacker. However, I love this. Okay, because this is honestly insane. So Beedrill is going to come on occasion, so we can kind of write that off. And Gardevoir is not physical, but Zeraora, Cornerstone, Mega Sableye, Gliscor, and Empoleon. All 5 of those Pokemon can very easily run knockoff. Items are going to be very much a challenge to be brought against Boaz, which is really, really good in my opinion. You look at the statuses. Mega Sableye, obviously gets all 3. Gardevoir, if you're bringing it more of a mixed set, has all 3. You have really so many good toxic users: Empoleon, Gliscor, Mega Sableye. You do even have Empoleon learning Yawn. You have good speed control as well. You have Pokemon with both Tailwind and Trick Room. Your supports, Rhyme and Mega Bayonet, both get screens, which is just really good. So I'm honestly very, very impressed with this team. The only thing, like I said, that Firewater Grass Core got you knocked down some points. And then I think looking at your team, I think you kind of got the best Mons you could with Terra. I'm just not a fan of them.
Yeah, I think I rated Bo as the lowest out of anyone. I didn't really look at most people's, but I assume I did because I had him at like 11th. With looking back, is a little lower than I should have, but I do think that I still have issues with this team. I think there's so much offensive on this team that it forces you that you have to bring defensive Gliscor, defensive Empoleon, and Mega Sableye. You're not running offense Mega Sableye, but Gliscor and Empoleon get forced to run a defensive set basically every week, and you could see an offensive set from an Empoleon, from a Gliscor. Gliscor gets Sword Stance. You can run a bulky offensive Gliscor, and it can do a lot of damage. I would like to see an offensive Empoleon. It's got some good special stats, and with competitive, that could do something, but you get forced to run these defensive sets. You mentioned you could run a defensive Komodo, and it could be good, but I feel like he's going to be running offensive more so. I think he's kind of going to have to run a lot of especially offensive Komodos with Throat Spray, Clanging Soul, because your main two offensive threats are this Aurora and the Yoga Pump, which are fast, offensive hitting Mons. You could run Zeraora special, but 9 times out of 10, you're just going to click Plasma Fists, Drain Punch, and just run away. But those main two things are going to be physically offensive. Rapidash is another physically offensive Mon. Those 3 fastest Mons are all physically offensive threats. Gliscor, another one, more physical. Komo is more physical than special, but you could run either or. Buffalon is your second Terramon. That is another big offensive threat. For the special side, you really only have the Gardevoir, Empoleon, Mr. Rhyme, and half the time the Komodo, which isn't bad. I like it, but I wish there would have been more. I think Gardevoir is a fine Terramon. I would have preferred something different. But again, based on your team, it is the best Terramon you could have gotten.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to Terra? Are you going to Terra Beedrill, Mr. Rhyme? I don't know. Maybe you could have picked Rapidash over Buffalon, but I probably would have just went Buffalon just because why not? I don't know. But either way, I feel like there's some issues with this team. Maybe it's just like a gut feeling. Maybe it's like there's no bias because there just isn't. It's just my gut is just like there's something wrong with this team, and my brain looks at this team and is like this is a good team, but like my gut is like no, there's something wrong with it. Maybe it's that a lot of the Mons are physical. He has some weaknesses to ground and ghost types. He has an immunity for each, but like the only thing stopping ground types is like Ogerpon and Gliscor, and that's it. Empoleon maybe if it's a super frail ground type. For the ghost types, you got Sableye, I guess, but Sableye can just get set up on, kind of. But like, I don't know. There's something wrong with this team, and I don't know what it is. It's driving me crazy because I want to like actually put in an effort to describe. Hey, these are the reasons I don't like the team. But I don't. My gut is just weird, man.
Sableye does get taunt, so it's not going to be that easy to set up on it.
Not that easy, but when it megas, you lose Prankster, so you'll at least get one thing on it.
Yeah. I mean, the utility that it gets, though, like I said, with taunt, or if you can do Will-O-Wisp or Thunder Wave, Toxic, there are ways that Mega Sableye gets around it, and that's why it's so good as a Mega, is because there's so many ways around and preventing from Mons from setting up on it, because it is more just a wall.
Yeah, but the other issue and if it doesn't, then like any like sub setupers, like that's just kind of crazy for this team. Like against it, like it depends on what the mon is, but like sub sword stance Excalibur just runs to this team. I know it's Excalibur, but like still.
All right. So with that, we will move into third place. And in third place, we have the Canalab Nightmares, ran by Hades. He has Iron Valiant, Zapdos, Torterra, Skeledirge, Greninja, Bronzong, Tatsugiri, Muck, Regirock, Mega Audino, Leafeon, and his Terra captains are Torterra and Regirock.
I believe you are up first this time.
It is me indeed. I was getting everything in the team builder thing. But this is just a really good team. I had him rated high, not this high, but still is just, it's a really well-rounded team. I like what he brings offensively and defensively. I think this is one of the better defensive teams we've seen. It's not better than BK's, but I think this could be argued to be maybe the second best defensive team. I think Zapdos, Skeledirge, Bronzong, Mega Audino, Regirock, Muck even, Leafeon even, those are some really good defensive mods, and even those lower tiers with the Regirock, the Muck, the Mega Audino, and the Leafeon, those are some also nice lower tiers that you can actually do things with.
Yeah, he was the only other person I gave a 10 to in defense besides BK.
Yeah, his defense is just nuts, and even for Torterra, if you don't want to run the Shell Smash just because the opponent's going to run Mirror and half their mods, if you just run a defensive set that's like Terra Steel or Terra Fairy or something, you're kind of golden. He didn't pick Steel or Fairy for either of his Terra types. I just realized he picked Fire and Ice. I don't know why he picked Ice, but Terra Fire is still good. But regardless, the offensive capability with this team is also really good. Iron Valiant is just one of flat out the best models in the game. Greninja with Protein is really good. Did we allow Battle Bond by chance?
It does get Battle Bond.
It does get Battle Bond, okay. I wasn't sure if we allowed it or not, but either way.
Yeah, it gets Battle Bond. So that's insane, boosting its attacks and speed. It's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Battle Bond or Protein, either way, you're going to get work out of that thing. And it's going to run well. And I think it pairs really well with Iron Valiant because I think both those two mods can run either special or physical, and you won't be upset with either side. Say, Greninja's got 95 attack, 103 special attack. Iron Valiant's got 130 and 120 into those two respectively. They're extremely fast. They're iron cannons, but don't do it. Or iron cannons, glass cannons, Jesus. But they both do the same thing, but because of the type differences, I think they counteract each other really well. And I think even if you want to run a fast hazard setting Greninja with spikes and T-spikes, that could go really well for you. I wish you got knockoff, but that's not Hades' fault. I think his hazards is fine. He's got a good lot of hazard setters, but the removers are where the issue comes in. Your only spinner is Tatsugiri, which is a fine setup mod, but is it his only dragon? Yeah, okay. So Tatsugiri being the only dragon is a little bit of an issue, but it's not the end of the world having an dragon type, but it gets spin, it gets nasty plot surf Dracos, so it can kind of do things, but you're going to be running a lot of bulky defaulting Zapdoses most of the time, and I think that you're perfectly okay with that. I think he talked about running offense Zapdos, which is a good set to run, but Zapdos gets Defog, Toxic, Thunder Wave, Roost. It's going to run so much defensive moves that you're going to want to bring because you don't have them in other mods. You can run Volt Switch or U-Turn with it. You got U-Turn with Ninja. It gets Baton Pass for even other pivot if you wanted to, for whatever reason. But you have great rockers. You have good two different T-Spike users. You have two different clerics with Audino and Leafeon. But because you have Audino, you don't have to run that with Leafeon. You can do that with the Audino and run some offensive sword stance set with the Leafeon. I think the speed tiers are fairly good. You have one in the 90s. You have two above 100, one at 100 with Zapdos. But mainly you're going to be running the Greninja and the Iron Valiant, and because of the type differences, it's so difficult to get through both of those mons between even 6 mons on your own team. It's going to be really difficult to get through that, and also just break through his defensive core with Unaware Skeletors, Zapdos, Bronzong, Muk, Audino. It's so difficult. And the one last thing I want to mention is between all of the 18 types, he has an answer to every single type, whether it is an immunity or a resistance, to the point where if you count all up, he is not fully weak to any single type. He's neutral to a few, but he's not fully weak to any one type.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree with pretty much everything that you said. Hades' team is insanely good. The lowest places that I ranked him was his Fairy Dragon Steel Core, and that's mainly because Tatsugiri is there as his Dragon type. If it wasn't for that, you have Iron Valiant and you have Bronzong as your other two. That's very good. Personally, I do like myself my defensive Fairy types. However, Iron Valiant makes up for that as well because you have Mega Audino. So you look at that as well, and you look at that, and I can't say enough good things about Mega Audino. It's so underrated as a Mega. Before it gets Mega as regular Audino, it's still insanely bulky, and it gets regen. So, you're not going to be coming in and using it immediately as a Mega. And I think because of the fact that you also have another Fairy type to deal with the Dragon types in Iron Valiant, that means that you can save your Mega Audino from Mega evolving until you need it to, which is super important. I look at this team and I see that everything works really well. However, by looking at this team, I do see that there's in my mind, one Pokemon that without it, this team will still be good, but without this one particular Pokemon, this one Pokemon just makes this team from good to insane, and that is Zapdos. It is so versatile, and it works so well with stuff like Greninja, Iron Valiant, and then you also have stuff like that Terra Torterra, and Bronzong. Zapdos is that core in this team that makes everything fit together, in my opinion. The other thing that I knocked him for is the momentum that he has. I look at it, Zapdos gets U-turn and Volt Switch, Greninja gets U-turn. Both are insanely good. Leafeon gets Baton Pass, and Tatsugiri gets Baton Pass, but that's it, really. That's all they have. So you have those good momentum users, but that's really all you have. I didn't knock him as much as I wanted to, and that's mainly because of the fact that his defense, like I said, is the only other defense that I gave a 10 to. So he is going to be able to switch into certain Pokemon and just take hits, and then heal it up because he has Mega Audino and Leafeon as a Wish and Cleric user, which is also very good. When it comes to utility, you have Iron Valiant, Mega Audino, Leafeon. All three of those could use knockoff. I'm very much okay with that. You have good phasing with Roar and Haze. Your statuses are good. Zapdos with Thunder Wave and Toxic is insane. You don't really even need to be running Zapdos with those options as well because you have stuff like Mega Audino that can run both of those as well and choose the better one. So that's why I really like Zapdos as well, because of the fact that you do have other Pokemon that can run Thunder Wave and Toxic, which will allow you to run a more offensive Zapdos from time to time. It doesn't need to come all the time. In fact, I don't expect it to, but the fact that you could, and it's there as an option for you, is insane. You have really other good Toxic users in Bronzong, Leafeon, Muk, Regirock. The one thing I'm a little disappointed about is the fact that your only Will-O-Wisp user is the Skeledirge. You have options to set up Trick Room. You also have very good support options. Bronzong and Mega Audino both very much could be using screens. So I really, really like this team. Also, like you were saying, he doesn't have anything outstanding in his weaknesses department. Everything covers each other, whether it's with immunities or 4 times resist. It's very well covered. So this team definitely deserves its spot up here.
All right, and so we move on to second place, which bafflingly goes to the Miami Main Drink, ran by our very own Gal.
Wait, we didn't talk about my team yet. What?
Baffling? Are we baffled by this far?
A little bit, yes. Nobody even ranked me second.
Yeah, I know. His highest rank is third, and his lowest rank is not. He was just very consistent, while everybody else was kind of over the place.
Hey, that night was me.
It was.
That was me.
It was. And to keep this PG, I'm not going to say anything.
Fair enough. Gal, it is your team. Would you like to start?
Well, let me rattle off his moms real quick.
Of course.
Chi-Yu, Corviknight, Slowking, Toadscruel, Beedrill, Mega, Diancie, Jolteon, Audino, Minior, Haunter, Regidrago, and his Terra Captains are Jolteon and Minior.
And no, I don't want to go first. Nick, you can go first.
I went first for my team. It's only fair you go first.
I don't like to go first for my team.
Alright, fine. I'll go first. I guess I ranked it lowest out of anybody. I have a few issues here and there, but I do think this is an all-around really good team. Gal's been going off about literally anything under the sun that a team could need, and I think he's hit basically everything fairly well. He's got a lot of hazard users and hazard removal. Toadscruel gets spikes and T-spikes. You have Rockstrom, Diancie, and Minior. Diancie's going to be your main rocker. It also gets spikes when you need it. T-spikes, Haunter, and Mega Beedrill get it, but you're mainly going to reset with Toadscruel. You have two different defoggers. You're mainly 9 out of 10 times going to be running it on Corv. You have Rapid Turn from Toadscruel. You have U-Turn from 3 different mons. The Beedrill U-Turn's going to be big. You have 2 different Wish users. You have the Audino and the Jolteon. But with having Audino, you don't have to use that for the Jolteon. And Terra Jolteon is one of the best Terramons I think available. I think a Terra Ice, Terra Blast Jolteon is just a really good combo when you have the Ball Beam combination from that. You get Heal Bell from Diancie and Audino. You have good amount of taunt users, you have good knockoff users, lots of different toxic users with Diancie, Audino, Toadscruel, Slowking, Haunter, Minior. You got T-Wave users from Slowking, Audino, and Jolteon. You have just a lot of different answers to a lot of different things. The speed tiers are really nice. It's a little bit of a slow team after the first 5 or so mons, but the Beedrill is extremely fast. Jolteon is extremely fast. You have GU and Toadscruel at 100 base speed. Haunter has some good speed, and Haunter can actually be useful. It will do things. But after basically the Haunter, you have base 80 with Drago, and then you sit in the 60s with Core, Minior, and everything else that's 50 or below. It's a much more bulkier team than you would think. Corviknight, Diancie, Audino, Slowking, those 4 are big defensive boosts. Regidrago, 200 HP, it's going to do things. I'm going to ask you right here, right now. Gal, why did you take Toadscruel in the 4th round? I want to know.
Because I wasn't expecting to get Jolteon, and I was considering a Terra Toadscruel.
Okay, that's understandable. I will say, I don't like Toadscruel. Every move that I mentioned that it gets, it doesn't matter, because it has to go last. Spikes, T-spikes, it gets Spore, it gets... No, Rapid Spin's not a status move, but every status move it gets, Toxic, Spikes, T-spikes, Spore, it has to go last. Its ability is so bad that I think I wouldn't call it undraftable, because like AV sets are good, but I just don't think it's a good mon, because all the things that it wants to do, it has to wait. And it's a fast mon, it's 100 base speed. So you would want to get those fast spores, the fast T-spikes, the fast spikes, fast whatever, but it just doesn't get to do that, because Game Freak hates... Okay, honestly, Game Freak making it so we don't have a fast spore user is understandable. But it's lame, and I would have liked to see a fast spore user because it's funny. But I I think a lot of the roster is good. I like the Chi-Yu, and I think you paired a lot of things really well with it. I think Beedrill goes really well with it, getting on the physical side, which Chi-Yu gets the special side. I think Corviknight, Slowking, Diancie are really good. Defensive core, I think Reggie Drago helps out a lot. With the Dragon type, you were missing that until the last round. I think Terra Jolteon is a great Terramon. Literary Terramon Minior. That's fair.
It gets Shell Smash.
It does get Shell Smash. Okay, that's fair. I wouldn't have anything else. Like, maybe like a defensive Omno, but like that's it. Like, Minior's fine. I have nothing to run against it. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be running the Terra Jolteon because it's just that good of a Terramon.
Yeah. But yeah, Minear's can definitely do some things. Terra Ground, Shell Smash, Earthquake is gonna hit hard. Because then you just switch into a flying type, and I hit you with Rock Slide or Stone Edge.
Easy.
So Minear is definitely coming a couple of times. It's definitely situational, but I felt like I didn't need another insanely good, a Terramon that can be brought all the time, because Jolteon is that good, and it can be brought to 9 out of 10 matches as a Terra. So I felt like with Mineor, I can bring it as a Terra, but I can also not bring it as a Terra option, and it's still going to put in the value that I want it to. That's why I drafted it. I didn't draft anything on my team that I felt like I couldn't put any kind of value in putting it into only running one specific set. Every single Pokemon that I drafted because they're very versatile, and I can do a lot of different things with it, which is what I really, really wanted this season. Because last season I really struggled because I drafted so many Pokemon that were kind of locked into certain sets. So I wanted to have the freedom to move around and pivot and do different things that I wanted to do. So you can finish up unless you were done.
I'm basically done. I got everything off my chest. Jolteon's really good, and I think Toshimo sucks.
Alright. Yeah. So, first off, I'm going to say is I don't know how I got Chi-Yu at 11th overall, but I'll take it. There's not many things that's going to live a Choice Specs Chi-Yu attack. But as soon as I drafted Chi-Yu, I knew I wanted to draft a core around it, because Chi-Yu, while yes, it's good, it's not going to be busted unless you draft a good core around it. So that's why I immediately went with a core to build around it, like Corviknight and Slowking. I didn't focus on anything else except for that afterwards. I decided to pair it up with Mega Beedrill to hit on, like you said, the physical side. Reggie Drago, I think, is going to be insanely underrated. Because unless you have a fairy type on your team, have fun. If you don't bring a fairy type and Reggie Drago comes, you're in trouble. Diancie is absolutely insane defensively, and I'm actually really, really excited to use it. And Autono is very underrated as well. I feel really, really bad because in my other league right now, I actually have Autono there as well. And in the last 3 weeks, I think I've taken over probably close to around 3,000 damage with Autono in the last 3 weeks combined. So I feel like Autono has been abused, but it's helped me win 2 out of those 3 matches because Wish Protect is a thing. But when it comes to how I graded myself, I did have a few 10s. I also had a few lower grades, pretty low grades as well. I did rate my Firewater Grass core as a 10. You have Chi-Yu, Toadsquirrel, and Slowking. I think that's absolutely insane. I know you don't like Toadsquirrel. I think it's really good. My hazards, I did rate a little bit lower, just because of the fact that, while Mega Beedrill and Haunter do get Toxic Spikes, Toadsquirrel is going to be my main Toxic Spikes user. Diancie is going to be my main Stealth Rock user. Minear is not going to be coming all the time. I do have a really good defog user in Corviknight. Only having one of those and only having one Rapid Spin user definitely limits options, and I have to choose some, to where I need them. My utility, though, I think think is fairly good. Like you were saying earlier, Autono and Jolteon both being a healing and cleric user. I have 4 really good knockoff users. The statuses, having Spore, good T-Wave users, and Autono, Slowking, Toxic as well. I do struggle a bit with Will-O-Wisp being only Chi-Yu and Haunter, but I'm honestly okay with that. I have lots of options for screens and for something like Trick Room if I want to do that. For that break in the speed tier that I do have, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, I dropped from 80 to 67, which is and then from 60 to 50. So I don't think it's too bad, considering the Pokemon that are what they are in that range. Meteor is going to likely boost that speed eventually. Diancie at 50 and Autono at 50. They're there more for bulk. They're not really going to be there for speed options. And having more options there, Regidrago can run Specs. It can also run Scarf. Haunter, even though it's not, you look at it and you're just like, okay, it's not even its final evolve form. It does things. It has 110 base special attack and a 95 speed. It can do things. And obviously Slowking is there to help prevent Trick Room from being an issue. And then obviously Jolteon as a Terra and Minior as Terra. I think I have one of the better Terra captain teams in the league, in my personal opinion. And then overall, like you were saying, there's a couple glass cannons on the team like Mega Beedrill and stuff like that, but overall my team has the offensive capabilities to hit you hard, but it also has a decent amount of bulk and options to move around the bulk to different Pokemon each week.
Alright, so with that being said, we will move to our top ranked team. And Jesus Christ.
Pretty sure this was like unanimous.
Yes, it was. Pretty much unanimous. The Brooklyn Minces, headed up by VGC Mintz, with the Mons Great Tusk, Tapu Fini, Caesar Mega, Latios, Decidueye, Incineroar, Sock, Rotom Fan, Grafaiai, Golem, Chamico, and his Terra Captains are Decidueye and Grafaiai. How did we let this happen?
How did we let this happen? So, the lowest grade I gave Men's was 1-6, and that was for hazards. And, well, yes, he has basically every defogger in the game. He has 6 defog users. He has 1 rapid spin user in Tusk. He only has basically one Stealth Rock user in Great Tusk. Golem is going to be, I think, more situational. It can be brought. But no webs, no spikes, no toxic spikes. That was my issue with that. Everything else got a 8 or above, I think. I don't even think he got a 7. However, even though that's being said, he still only did get 110 for me, and that was in his Fairy Dragon Steel Core. So take me back to Gen 7, baby. Latios, Fini, and Mega Scizor. No. That's going to be insanely hard to break through. You have Mega Scizor that can pretty much do anything, from bulky to offensive. You have, Fini, which is going to help with the fact that you're setting up the Misty Terrain, so Dragon-type moves aren't going to be able to do as much damage. It's a nice bulky water type as well. Water and Fairy is an insane combo typing. Then you have Latios, which is the more offensive Dragon type, which I think really works well. I mean, Latios was there as well, but I honestly prefer Latios to Latios on this team because of the fact that he gets them that little bit more of that offensive boost. And he has the defensive capabilities with Mega Scizor and Tapu Fini. He doesn't need the more bulky Lati in Latios. That the Dragon type moves are going to be weakened. He does worry about the Fairy. However, you literally just come in on Mega Scizor and it takes 2%. Even if it's offensive, it takes 8%. It's not doing anything. The only other issue that I have is his healing and cleric users. That's the only reason why I would consider Latios, and that is because of the fact that his only healing and cleric user is Chimeko. Only one. And that is the only other major issue that I see with this team. Otherwise, his speed tiers are great. I wish he had one Pokemon just above 110. But I look at it, and he pretty much has all of the tiers covered. And then you also look at the utility of his team as well, minus the healing, clerics, and stuff like that. Feeny, Sock, Mega Scizor, Incineroar, Tusk, Grafaiai, Decidueye all get knockoff. You can Encore with Grafaiai very easily. He has good trick users in Rotom Fan and Latios. So trick is definitely something that will be brought. He has good haze and phasing users, Feeny, and then Roar with something like Incineroar. He has really good statuses. I really wouldn't bring it on Latios, but he can Thunder Wave also with Rotom Fan. Tons of toxic users: Feeny, Fan, Scizor, Incineroar, Grafaiai. Two good Will-O-Wisp users, which I think is insane with Incineroar and Rotom Fan. He does have the option to do Trick Room if he wants to bring the Chimeko, but, it's whatever. He can set up screens with Feeny or Fan or Latios. It's insanely good. And then his momentum is even better. You have 4 really reliable U-turn users in Mega Scizor, Incineroar, Grafaiai, Decidueye, Volt Switch with Rotom Fan, 2 Parting Shot users with Incineroar and Grafaiai, and Latios gets Baton Pass as well, and also because Mega Scizor, Grafaiai, and Decidueye will be using the momentum moves that do damage. So he has insanely good momentum as well. Priority is decent. 3 Sucker Punch users, Shadow Sneak. He has Fake Out with Incineroar, Bullet Punch with Mega Scizor. It's such a good team. Like I said, the really only fault that I can even find with it is the hazards. And it's not the removal, it is the hazard setters. So, other than that, offensively, it's insane. Defensively, very good bulk across the board. I see it's very easily why it's pretty much the unanimous number 1.
Yeah, basically everyone put this team at number 1, and that includes me. I assume it includes Gal. And basically. And basically everyone else pretty much agrees. If it's not 1, it's top 2. And I think it's just a phenomenal team. I made a joke before Grace Period even ended, because we had Feeny, regular Scizor, and Latios. And I was like, that's the most Gen 7 looking Fairy Dragon Silk I've ever seen. And then he got Mega Scizor, and he made it even more Gen 7 like. And it was good 7 years ago. Yes, 7 years ago. Checked. And it's good now. I'm old. I'm an adult. I hate this. But you have that fantastic Fairy Dragon Steel Core with Latios, Mega Scizor, Feeny, the bulk of Feeny, the versatility of Latios, and just the overall power of Mega Scizor is just phenomenal. And to even throw more Gen 7 in there, you have 2 of the starters. Incineroar, it's not VGC, but it's still really good here with Parting Shot, Knock Off, Fake Out, any fire move, any other dark move you want to run. It's still a really good mod. Intimidate is still one of the best abilities in the game. Decidueye being your Terramon, I think, is a really good grab. I thought about getting the Hisuian variant as my Terra Captain before I got Raichu, but I think this Decidueye is a great grab. Any Terra Ghost he could use with Long Reach. Spirit Shackle is going to be really good. He grabbed Terra Water and Terra Fairy to pair up with that. Obviously, that's going to be great. Terra Fairy is one of the best 2 in the game. Terra Water to get rid of the fire types. It's going to be really nice to see. It's going to be really nice to go with. Great Tusk is just a phenomenal mod. I've used it myself. It is such a good mod. Sock is just kind of there. If ever you see a team that's weak to fighting types, you just bring both of them. both it and Tusk, and they'll do work. Is it a little faster or is it slow? Sock is slow. I lied. But still, it's a strong fighting type. If you ever want to run more bulky Tusk, you can just bring Sock and be a little more offensive with it. Rotom Fan is a good pivot mod. I like what it can bring to the table. People make fun of it because Levitate flying type is the same thing. But it's still not that bad of a mod. I think Air Slash Thunderbolt is a good duo. Golem is just there. It's basically just a backup to Great Tusk if you ever want to run two ground types. Trimeco gets Wish as a Cleric mod. I think it's fine. I think I said at this point half an hour ago. If you can get a Cleric mod, even as the crappy one, just grab it. And he did. He got a Levitate mod, and it is it's a Cleric mod. It's fine. If you ever need Wish, just bring it. But I think the most underrated pick here is going to be that Terra Grafii at 6 points. That's pretty much on their value. It and the Primate from before are some of the best Terra values you can get. I have faced Terra Grafii before. It is really good. You can excuse me, with Unburden, it goes from 110 base speed to who knows what number. It becomes extremely fast. And you had the issue of you want someone that's above 110. There you go. You can get a Great Tusk. You can click Rabbit Spin once and get above 110 probably. But with Grafii, you click Knockoff and you click Switcheroo and you throw an Iron Ball on them. Now you have no item. They have an Iron Ball. You're having fun. You click Terra. I have seen offensive sets for this thing. I believe it gets Nasty Plot. So it can set up. And its attacks aren't that bad. It's got 95 attack, 80 special attack, which is not bad. It's extremely fast. And for all purposes, you can just run one of the parting shots, the taunts, any other toxic, I assume it gets it. You can run just a pivot fast. I'm trying to think of the word. I said this 10 minutes ago. But it's going to be a very fast mod that can help out with the status situations and just help be a good pivot mod. I keep saying pivot. I'm forgetting a word. It's fine. But Terra Grafii, what was it?
Pivot meaning momentum?
Momentum, but there's a word that my brain's trying to think of that I'm forgetting. If I remember it, I'll say it. But it's going to help out with a lot of different things. And just the main thing is that Fairy Dragon Steel Core paired with the Terra Decidueye, paired with the Incineroar, paired with the Great Tusk, it's going to be just a great Fuse 6, and then the Grafii and the Rotom Frost go along with it. Golem's going to do things, Sock's going to do things. I would like to see him maybe drop the Sock or the Golem and get something else. He has one of every type except for Ice, so you're going to double up on something. I don't know if Fighting is the answer. You could double up on maybe another Fire type, perhaps maybe an Arc type.
Get a better Cleric user.
Get a better Cleric user, exactly. There's a lot of other things you could do with the Sock or the Golem spot. They're both 1 6 points, 1 3 points. I'm sure there's something good for those points that you can easily grab and make use of. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think Armado, it's 6 points. There's another Rabbit Spinner for you, another Rocker. So it's something. But either way, I think this team is really good. I think the speed tiers are good enough. You mentioned, the only issue you had was there's not a lot of Rockers, or spikes or T-spikes or anything. And I think it's completely fine. As long as you have the removal, you can run with it. If you really want rocks, you can run rocks, Rapid Spin, Bulky Tusk, and it'll get the job done. I've used it before. It is a Bulky Tusk is a good mod. You mentioned before defensive Kamo. Defensive Great Tusk is good. 115 HP, 131 defense, and decent speed. It can get even faster with Rapid Spin. That's a good mod right there. And there's just so much versatility on this team that it's going to be one of the hardest to prep for when you have offensive defensive Tusk, offensive defensive Beanie, Scizor, Latios, Decidueye, Incineroar. Everything can go offense or defensively, and it's just going to be really difficult to prep for this team, and I hope I don't play them.
And with that, we reach the end of a long episode of the podcast, the UDL podcast. We will. Do you guys have any final thoughts that you'd like to put out there?
Not really.
I don't think I have any. The only thing I want to mention is I do play Mets in the final week of the season, so yay me.
Hope you aren't looking for a playoff spot in that last week.
Hopefully not.
All right. Well, with that, we will end off the podcast. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Come back for episode 4, which will not be this long.